Hello, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and hello to all the old friends I haven't yet bumped into. I'm waving at some of you now. It's really great to see you here. Really wonderful, at all sorts of different levels. The last time I saw some of you here, I certainly had no idea I was going to be doing the job I'm doing now. So welcome back. I have no idea what I'll be doing the next time you're here, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to be saying a few more words tomorrow at the opening of the formal part of the conference, so I'm not, other than this very brief welcome, there's not much more I'm going to say now. But it gives me great pleasure to welcome and to introduce the Deputy Chief Minister of Gibraltar. The journey that has brought me to where I am would not have been possible had I not been absolutely convinced that the government that I was joining, or I was going to join after the elections, was totally committed to the environment. Dr. Joseph Garcia, who is the Deputy Chief Minister, is a great supporter of everything that I do and my department does. He chairs the Gibraltar Climate Change Task Force and is a great ally to have when one is trying to push the environmental dimension in everything that we do. So it gives me great pleasure to formally welcome you to Gibraltar, my colleague, my boss, the Deputy Chief Minister, Dr. Joseph Garcia.
Thank you, John, for that introduction. I think anybody who knows you will know that you have no bosses. The environment itself. So we welcome all of you, distinguished guests, to this conference, Sustaining Partnerships, a conference on conservation and sustainability in UKOTCF territories, Crown dependencies, and other island communities. It gives me pleasure also to welcome the Minister of Economic Development, Joe Garcia, who's just walked in, so you'll be able to talk to later on this evening. This is the conference has been organised by the Departments of the Environment and Climate Change here in Gibraltar, by the UKOTCF Territories Conservation Forum, and with the support of the Gibraltar Ornithological and Natural History Society. It is an impressive lineup. I mean, looking through the programme for the conference, which John very kindly passed on to me, I think it's extremely impressive to see the level, the high level and the high quality of the guests, of the speakers, and of the list of participants. And certainly, it's something which Gibraltar welcomes. We very much value our relationship with the other overseas territories. It's something which we cherish. We share many things in common, not just the links with the United Kingdom, but certainly the values and the history, the traditions. I think it's something which we all share, and we feel very much in Gibraltar that we are part of that wider overseas territories family. I know some of you are Crown dependencies, and some of you are island communities with perhaps not that link with the United Kingdom, but certainly you're all very welcome here in Gibraltar. And standards over 100 people taking part in the conference. By our standards, that is pretty huge. Gibraltar is a very small place. The population is about 32,000 people in the last census. So to have 100 people coming in will certainly help and be a boost to our tourist figures and our hotel occupancy figures, which is always very useful. I understand the first conference took place here in the year 2000. Indeed, I've met some of you already who were here in 2000 for that first conference. And the last one took place in Cayman in 2009. I'd like to think that, John mentioned our commitment to the environment, and that being one of the reasons why I stood for election with us. Certainly, the reverse also applies. I think having John being our Minister for the Environment has been extremely helpful, extremely useful, and it served as an education, certainly, to people like me who didn't know as much of the environment as we do now. I mean, my own background is, for example, as a historian. Joe is an economist. So it's been extremely useful to have John with us. I think it's reflected in the policies we've adopted as a government. In many areas, there is now an environmental filter in place in relation to all the government policies. I think whereas historically, the Department of the Environment is very much a self-contained department which runs its own show. Now, I think it's fair to say that there is an environmental filter across government policy and across all government departments, and John has been instrumental in achieving that and in putting it in place, together obviously with the fantastic team at the Department of the Environment here in Gibraltar. You see that reflected, for example, in policies like renewable energy. This is something which you would have thought in Gibraltar, being in the Mediterranean and having so much sunshine, you would have thought that this was something which would have been developed much earlier, but it wasn't. And it's taken us to come into office with John as a Minister for the Environment to see, for example, solar thermal projects taking place. There are a couple of solar thermal projects now underway here in Gibraltar. They've been immensely successful, not just from the point of view of generating electricity in areas like a sports hall and in areas like an indoor swimming pool, but also in the huge saving economically, not just environmentally, but the huge saving economically that Gibraltar has made as a result of that. So thank you, John. Also in relation to power generation, for example, we are now considering moving from diesel to gas. Gas is a far cleaner source of energy, and again, that's something which we have progressed during this term of office. But also in relation to our natural environment. I mean, one very obvious policy which was listed in a manifesto and which is carried out very enthusiastically is simply tree planting. And the number of trees which we've been planting all over Gibraltar under the Department for the Environment is extremely impressive. You will have seen, or some of you will get the opportunity to visit, hopefully during your stay here, Commonwealth Park, which is a green area in the centre of town, which used to be a dirty, noisy car park. And that within 3.5 years, we've actually transformed that into an oasis in the centre of our city. And I hope some of you go along there and visit it, because it's certainly worth the while. Also in relation to the marine environment, in relation to the Upper Rock, there are certain measures that we've taken which are there to strengthen and to protect the maritime heritage and the environmental heritage in these two areas. Because one thing I think is to have legislation in place, but another thing is to enforce it. So one thing we've done is we've employed an environmental enforcement team, which is now out at sea and also up in the Upper Rock as well. So again, you need to legislate, but also you need to act at the same time to make sure that those laws are not broken. So I think to round up, what I need to do is to, first of all, thank all of you, to officially, on behalf of the government and of the people of Gibraltar, to welcome you to Gibraltar, to wish you success in your deliberations. The conference being officially opened tomorrow by the Chief Minister together with John Cortes, so they will do the official opening. But my role simply is to welcome you to Gibraltar and to wish you all the very best in your discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph. Looks like I'm Master of Ceremonies, but before I hand over to Mike, I must comment that my friend and colleague Joe Lozano walked in just as he was saying the words distinguished guests, and that is no coincidence. I must say that Joe was Chief Minister of Gibraltar for 8 years, from 1988, at a crucial time in the development of the environment in Gibraltar. It was under his chief ministership that the Nature Protection Act, which pioneered European environmental legislation, was passed. The Botanic Gardens were founded, and the Gibraltar Ornithological and Natural History Society was given premises from which it took off, and also the first Minister for the Environment was during Joe's tenure. So I can very well tell you that none of us would be here, and none of what you see around would be the way it is if it hadn't been for the years that Joe was Chief Minister, and I really need to say that in front of such distinguished guests.